So we've talked a lot about playing chords, we've talked about our rhythmic motifs, and now we're going to talk about adding some more flavor to your rhythm playing. This can mean a lot of things. I mean, this can mean changing up those rhythmic motifs during a song, but it can also mean adding little fills and other little chord voicings during your rhythm playing. So your most basic rhythm playing of just playing chords is going to be taking the chords, maybe picking your rhythmic motif, and say if we're an A, even throwing in those passing chords, all a part of that. Now, we also have what's known as comping, which is a jazz term basically for playing rhythm playing chords, and there's a degree of improvisation involved with that. So yes, if we're picking our chord shape, our voicing, and then also our rhythmic motif, of course you're coming up with that. But this goes a bit deeper than this. So it's to the point of where if I'm playing a shuffle, I start off and I'm just playing my A7 chord, maybe a little turn there. Now maybe going to the 4 instead of just a little passing chord, maybe I go so I'm using that little lead line in the middle of my rhythm playing. Now you want to have some discretion when you're doing this. Obviously, if another guitar player is soloing, you're not going to want to do something like that. But if this is in the middle of where a vocalist is singing, even if you're not wanting to give a huge guitar fill there, it's just going to, again, give you some sonic space where it's just you playing. Same thing if I'm playing over a slow blues, let's say in the key of D. And there's my motif. I go to the 4 chord, back to the 1. I can use those little lines like that one I had the double stop to get maybe up to the 5 chord there. Of I'm using these little phrasing ideas to get between chords. And it just makes everything feel more natural. I remember falling into the trap when I used to be in the studio and recording rhythm parts for my record or other projects where I would really be trying to play the perfect rhythm part and finding something that worked the whole way through. And look, we've talked about that in terms of picking your rhythmic motif and having something that grounds the whole part. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't add some flavor and add some variations here. I mean, other things you can do here is say over the 5 chord. So if we're still in the key of D there, if we get to the 5, maybe I want to add some flavor just over that 5, and those little turns there are great of taking those little 2-noters where I'm taking the notes on the G and the E string of that E9 chord. So I'm basically there, I'm taking the flat 7 and the 5th, and it's the same idea as a passing chord, but it's also adding a little something different because I'm not playing the full. That sounds a little too intrusive and full, but if I just take, and maybe then I repeat the same thing for the 4, and a little turn on that, where that for the 1 chord, I was taking my minor 7 flat 5 voicing, basically F sharp 7, which would work for my, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, which would work for my D7, and then I was going here, which is outlining D7 chord, and I'm basically playing there, I'm playing root, I'm playing 3rd, there's the 13, and there's the root, half step walk down, and getting to that F sharp minor 7 flat 5 voicing, which is giving me that D7 or D9 sound. So Something little like that over a shuffle does great just in terms of adding some spice, where the difference between me just sitting there and saying D, playing, or playing, huge difference just in terms of how free that feels. You can get a lot of good examples for this in old soul and R&B music. Like if you're listening to, anything from some Al Green to a lot of actually anything with Steve Cropper on it. So even some of the old Albert King stuff has this feel where even in the rhythm parts, there's that improvisational mindset and feel to it, which is great in a blues context because that's what we're also doing in our soloing. Then, of course, the clearest example of this is when you're playing with a vocalist. Maybe it's going to be on you to play some guitar fills. So it's about playing off the vocal line and finding those gaps where you can go into more of a lead mindset and finding those phrases that work along with the vocalist.